If you're just joining us, welcome. We're just going to give it another minute or two for some more attendees to join in, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think we can go ahead and jump right in. Welcome to the March Crew Control office hours. As usual, I'm Kelsey, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Crew Control, and we have Scott, our Product Manager for Crew Control, to take us through the demo of all of the new features over the last 2 months. As usual, you have the Zoom controls where you can use that Q&A to ask any questions you might have throughout the webinar. And then afterwards, we will share a recording. And just a reminder to keep up with the Insider and our in-app notifications to sign up for the next office hours, which will be in May. And with that, Scott, if you want to jump into the feature updates.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? So for the past couple weeks, we've been working on these improvements to crew control. So from the administrative area, just kind of general miscellaneous improvements we've made. Service categories throughout the system have been changed. Our employee time tracking report can export clock time, so we'll cover that. We've made some photo improvements from the admin side, so you can more easily download photos and view them. On the crew schedule, the crew app, your technicians or crew leads will be able to filter customer job history to a particular service by that using that service category. So we'll cover that. From proposals and estimates, any signatures captured on site, they'll display on the digital page, the digital proposal. Same with invoices, we made that change, and so we'll kind of walk you through how that works. When creating an invoice, you can quickly unselect and select all jobs that are linked to that invoice. We've made a new change, a new setting to hide line item names from customers and crews. That'll give you more capabilities for internal categorization of your line items. And then finally, our bigger topics, we've introduced partial refunds for online payments, as well as overpayments. So being able to support an overpayment on an invoice and have customer credit. And then finally, we'll do some question answer. So just any topics you all have.
Perfect. Scott, I'm going to stop my share so you can go ahead and take over for the demo.
All right. Let me go ahead and share my entire screen here. Hopefully I get this right. Kelsey, are you able to see that? I'm just double checking. All right, we're rolling. So the first enhancement that we've made is throughout the system, if you navigate to, let's say, a customer record, view their job history, you're going to be able to see service categories with their color. Previously, they're just a list of comma separated text, standard text. So that'll help you just visually recognize what these services were. We've done that in all areas. So customer history, work history report, if you run one of these, you'll see these categories in their color. Same when you're billing out your work, uncompleted work, you'll see those service categories. So just a nice usability change we've made. Again, just to more easily recognize the services just by the color coordination that you have. Another improvement we've made is to our employee times report. So not everyone uses this. This is for payroll time tracking, and that's configured from your crew view display settings. That's that payroll time tracking, and that allows your crew leads and technicians to clock in the morning, out on breaks, and then clock out once again in the evening when they're done. So when I run the employee times reports, I'll be able to see all of my clock times and hours for my crew for each day, for each crew member. We've made a new export, so we've heard feedback when importing this into your payroll system. We also need to have an option for individual punch times. So the export timesheet will be what was traditionally there. That'll be the total hours each day and total hours each week, which works for some folks. We have others that need individual breakdowns, so those individual punch times each day. So I'll go ahead and export this. It'll give you a CSV, and when you load that into a spreadsheet, you'll see what I'm talking about here. So it'll be each crew member, the crew they're assigned, and the clock in and out, the actual punch times, and then the total duration. So that'll help account for if you're needing to report on break times. That's going to give you that flexibility when you import that into your payroll system.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah,
While we're on employee times, we do have a question. What if a crew
sure.
member leaves early? How do we clock them out?
That's all self-driven, so you can do that on the admin side. From the crew side, they can clock out at any point. And then if you need to make corrections, you can do that from this list. You'll go to the sometimes if they didn't punch out, you'll get a warning. You can punch them out there. You can also correct and adjust their times from the crew member here. So if they didn't punch out or punched out early or made a mistake, you can make those corrections on the crew member. Great question.
Thank you.
All right, we'll keep rolling. So the next up is photo improvements. So we've had some, different versions of iPhones or different newer upgrades to some of our Androids where there was difficulty downloading photos. Wasn't easy to reproduce on our side, but it's happened, and so we've improved our photo parts, our component we use, and made some modifications to give you a first-class download option. Previously, before you'd have to right-click or touch it kind of hard and get it to download. Now you have a first-class download option, and it's just going to visually work a little bit better as you view crew photos taken out in the fields, any photos or attachments you've added to a job. Same, I'm trying to think of other proposal, invoice photos. So throughout the system, on all areas, we've made improvements to our photo control, and that's just going to give a little bit better support for downloads and handling a wide variety of mobile devices out there. All right, and the next one is a crew schedule change. So if you log into the crew app or a dispatch schedule, when I go into a job and view that job's history for that customer, so history for across previous services we've completed for this customer, I'm able to filter to a particular service type by the service category. So let's say we just want to see a repair or maintenance. I can filter that history and quickly see the details if I had some here. Let's see if I can, here's the cleaning service. And quickly see any notes, photos, any details we provided in that previous service. And that's just going to make it a little easy use of getting up and running in your next service to know what happened previously for that particular service that you performed. All right, so back on the admin side, oh, and I'll kind of show maybe this in combo here. So any signatures collected out in the field, either an on-site estimate, go ahead and sign this, or an invoice. Do this. Go ahead and complete this job, present it, and I'll capture this sign off, work job completed sign off for my invoice as well. You'll be able to see that signature in the text side. And then from the admin side, previously when you viewed, or from the customer when they view their, ooh, let me see, this is the right one. Let me double check that. I've got the right estimate, 1146. Let me double check. No, that's not. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Or I could just go to Dave's record here. We'll crack them open. Go to his sales, try to 1146. What am I doing? Maybe I'm in two different environments. That's possible. You're going to be able to view, when you view that invoice, you're going to be able to view that signature just on this page. So this should be accepted. You're just going to see a signature below these details. And let me see if I can track this down. I don't know why. I'm not. So I'll have to double check that I'm in the right environment. So my app might be pointed somewhere else. Interesting. Or it's an old archived. That's probably it. That tripped me up. Sorry about that. It's an old archived estimate tied to this thing, I believe. I don't know. I'll have to find it. It's an old one. But take my word for it. So you'll be able to see the signatures on the proposal and the invoice when they're collected out in the field. Previously, you'd have to print them to see them, and that was a way, especially if your customers are keeping that on a record for the record, keeping the be able to download it that way. So we just made it a little nicer and more consistent. So when you print it versus when you view it, it'll appear the same. From our billing area, the same deal. So any invoices created out in the field and signed off on, you'll be able to see those signatures. So just by viewing that invoice, let's see if this is it. It might not be. Yeah, so here it is. So by signing this sign off agreement on site, I'll be able to see that signature. It's kind of tiny here. I didn't make sure I'm zoomed in. Oh, I'm zoomed out. Zoom in a little bit, but that's my S here for my sign off signature. And that kind of covers that topic. So you, regardless of whether you print it or you view it, it's going to appear the same way. Next up, another usability enhancement. When you go to create an invoice, we're going to allow you to quickly unselect jobs that are linked to that invoice. That way, if you had 40 or 50 services that you are invoicing at the end of the month, either it's usually you're on monthly billing or you've fallen behind and you need to invoice just one job, that's going to allow you to quickly unselect all, select one, or you can go back to selecting all the jobs that are linked to that invoice, and you kind of see that my line items are popping in based on what's selected, what for that particular service, or what invoices or what invoice items were tied to that particular service. So just a nice usability enhancement there that we've made to handle large number of visits when invoicing. Next up, we've added a new setting for your invoice configuration. This affects all invoices and it'll affect proposals if you are dealing with internal categorization of your line items. You may want to hide that name. So some folks are using their name as a type of category or type of lookup, and they don't want that. It's just kind of noise to their customers and just not readable. You'll be able to hide this, and it will just show the description and remove any of that internal categorization that you have. So you'll be required to provide a description. So let's just say this is maintenance. If I try to create this invoice, it's going to require me to fill this in now, a description to the customer, because that's what's going to appear. So I'll just type something in. And I spelled performed wrong. $0 invoice, so we'll go ahead and invoice that out, but as a paid invoice. So when I print it or view it, I should no longer see that name, so I won't see maintenance as a name. I'll just see the description, and that's gonna, again, typically for categorization, or if the name just isn't is kind of redundant. It's in the description. You can remove that name versus anything that's already been sent. You can kind of see when I print this out. Oops, that didn't have that description, but that is showing a name. Um, and that's going to affect how the customer views it, how your team see line items if you have that out as a selection on the crew view side. I'll share that real quick. Crew view display. You could show job line items if that gives your crew leads an indication of what they need to perform with that service. That'll remove the name as well. They'll just see the description on their side from the job. Um, and that covers kind of the smaller topics. The bigger topics we've delivered this past two months were partial refunds and invoice overpayments. So for any paid, let's start with partial refunds. With any paid invoices, you're going to be able to refund that payment if it's a credit card or ACH transaction, so one of our online payments. You'll get that refund option. You'll be able to provide an amount now. Previously, we would just support full refunds. So if there's a mistake, you accidentally collected taxes or you accidentally made a charge when you didn't perform that item of work on the service, you can refund a partial amount. And so I can specify which amount I'm refunding. I'm not going to really do this because this is real transaction and it's a real transaction being made. So I won't really refund it, but I just kind of show you that you can invoice that $1. You could reduce it less if you need. What's going to happen when you refund? You'll have a refunded amount. It's not going to affect the total amount that's showing in this list. That'll be the total paid invoice amount. This will allow you to know how much you've refunded and make that differentiation for to calculate revenue. The invoice will still remain as paid. You'll see these warnings letting you know that it was refunded or fully refunded. Um, and that's going to help with your accounting. So you'll still have a record of that refund occurring. And if you need to collect another form of payment, you'll have to re-invoice that customer. Any questions on that? That's a big one. We've heard that throughout time as we've evolved their billing system, just a need for uncommon situations, but something that out of courteousness to your customer, easier to provide a refund directly to the payment that they provided rather than issuing some sort of check. So that's going to be really helpful for a lot of folks out there. Um, the next one is another similar situation, similar uncommon scenario. So you've received let's say a check that's an overpayment on a service. So it could be a mistake or the customer may have wanted to make a payment for the next service. They're just not going to be around. There's a lot of scenarios for this, but whenever you add a payment on a customer, and if it's a cash check or other, we're going to allow you to specify that dollar amount above the invoice amount. So I can say April here gave us $2,000 check, and that's going to cover this $180 invoice. Check number, 1050 here. I'll hit save. And so that you get a nice little warning here letting you know that you're going to have an $1,820 credit added to the customer. Same confirmation letting you know you're going to have a credit added to that customer. Go ahead and hit yes. So this invoice will be paid. Go ahead and view. Oops, I believe it's this one here. So the payment details, that $180 invoice, the payment details are going to show a $2,000 check. When I view April's record, the billing section will now have an account balance as well as the history of how that balance occurred. So you'll be able to see that there's an original invoice payment for this invoice of 2,000 that gave a credit of 1820. So now when I go back to bill a future invoice for April, I may have already invoiced April. So let's go ahead and add a job for April real quick. We'll say this is just another maintenance service. Go ahead and complete this job. And then when I go to invoice this maintenance service, when I create that invoice, I'm going to see the credit available to be applied for this service. I'm going to say it's a $500 service. So it'll be the full credit amount of 1820, and then I'll reduce it down to what's needed to cover this particular invoice. And so I'll go ahead and print this. It's going to be a $0 charge. So let's go ahead and pay for this invoice. And I'll close it. And then I'll go back to April's record. And you'll see in that billing history, that credit balance has been reduced. You also see in the details of that we've had an application of $500 towards another invoice. So you'll be able to see where that credit's used. We won't automatically apply the credit to any open invoices. You'll have to edit those invoices to apply it to correct the credit amount on that invoice and resave it. So we just just to handle any situations where your customer wanted to provide a payment for a particular service and may not cover any a historical invoice. So that's pretty much it. That covers all the topics. Ready for any questions that come in? Yeah.
We have three so far. First one, if I have a crew member send me a picture, will I be able to add it from the admin side?
Yes, you can. Same with correcting those job times. If you go to that job edit on the calendar, completion info, here you'll be able to see their job times. You can make corrections to that. Same with attachments. You can upload your own attachments. So these are the ones that I uploaded out in the field on my app, but I can go ahead and upload another one. So I'll just pick this tropical retreat here. And that's how you can handle that situation. So that'll appear on the customer's work history, the work history report. Um, so it'll be just like the crew added it.
Awesome. Thank you. Second one, I was loading costs for each customer. I can only load cost per service. Some of our customers are billed monthly. It seems that I can set this up under contract billing, but it seems to automate invoice sending. Is there any way I can eliminate auto sending of invoices, or could you show the best way to set up a customer for monthly billing?
Monthly billing, I would do, so if it's not automated, I would do a recurring job for each month and set up the billing information. So if it's a standard maintenance, $150. So if you're billing as you complete those services, that's what I would recommend is just having a monthly. And we'll just say it's the first week of each month. It's going to start next month. It won't end. It just recurs. I'd recommend that. So as you complete these jobs and you go to invoice those monthly services, they'll appear in your work not invoiced. At the end of the month, I'd expect you to either you're billing after that work's completed and it shows up in the list and you invoice at the end of the day, or at the end of the month you did invoice all your maintenance. And so that way you can select all, quickly batch email. That's probably the easiest. Otherwise, you could set up, like you said, have that customer on a contract billing and see their automated charges or automated invoices. So it won't be as the job has been completed. It'll just be a monthly charge, just a kind of they're on a maintenance agreement plan.
Awesome.
That's the best I got.
Perfect.
What else do we have?
I am curious, what is the idea with the custom question in the crew view display? How do other companies use it?
Yeah, it's a tough one. So it's a great question. So custom questions and crew display. Typically, the history on this one, it was added for chemical treatments and chemical tracking. And so this one, and this is kind of an evolution for crew control because we have job worksheets that handle a very similar situation. So I can choose chemical treatments, so specific questions for a type of service. Um, so wind speed, wind direction, type amounts. From the application, let me edit this job. I think since I completed, I might need a new job here. And because we tend to not force new questions after a job's been created. So I'll just go ahead and update this one to have that chemical treatment. So that's going to automatically provide questions out to the crew leads based on, and I've enabled, I'm required to put in the description now that I've enabled that setting. All right. So your crew leads should now see questions out in the field. Let me reload that. And that's what this is here. So they'll automatically, just like a checklist, have questions as they view that job that they complete. The advantage of crew que questions, the work history report, when you export it, it will have the individual breakdown. So that'll allow you to have the amounts, quickly get all of your notes and details for each visit through a report based on, and I can filter to that particular service. Let's see if I have any. I don't for that range. So in combination between running this report or the questions that were answered by your leads, as well as automatically having questions tied to the service. It's a real big benefit to crew view questions. It is, I will say, a topic that's evolving now that we have job worksheets because you can do a report with job worksheets and ask particular questions and different question types, not just question answer. You can also require them. Um, the downside is you don't yet have a report that you could get those answers quickly. So if it was for chemical treatment, I would still push you towards crew view questions. If it's some sort of maintenance checklist or inspection report, I think job worksheets are going to be a better fit. It's a great question. It's a tough one. I feel like that's one that's going to be evolving through crew control's time.
Awesome. And then one more that might need to be taken offline. My employee times are not showing. What do I do?
Your employee times are not show. So two things. Make sure your crew view setting to have payroll time tracking enabled. I would go to the reports. Make sure you don't have any filters. Make sure it's last 90 days. Load that report. Time range that you're expecting. So that's any troubleshooting, clear any filters. Run that. I would go to your crew member as well. Or sorry, I ran the wrong report. Employee times report. Load those times. I'd go to the crew member, also view on the crew member that history, their punch history. And so this is dealing with these punch times of the clock in, clock out times, easily confused with job times. So be careful with that. Job times will be for those billing details. So job times will be that work history report. Employee times will be those punch in and punch out times. So hopefully with those steps that will help you identify any missing punch times or the punch times you're looking for between seeing what's available on the crew member and then running that report for that time range. Hopefully that's the best I got. So if you're still struggling, reach out to support. Like always, question mark here, support for any issues such as this, any help troubleshooting, contact support using this option, and then request a feature that'll get it to my team. If it's a limitation, something you'd like seen in crew control, but something we don't offer, feel free to just put in a request.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And thank you everyone for great questions today and for joining us. We are at time here, but if you have any other questions, you will be receiving an email from me within the next few hours after the recording processes with a link to that recording. So if you need to review anything or want to share it with someone on your team, you can do that. So look out for that later today. And if you have any questions, follow up with Scott or I, or like you said, put in the support request, and we will do our best to get you some help that you need. So thank you again, everyone, and we will see you in May.
Thanks, everyone.